There are 1,000,000 ways to die. Perhaps 2,000,000. Perhaps even more. In fact, we don't even know how many ways there are to die. But one thing we do know is that a high percentage of those who die have what is commonly known as a near-death experience. Many people report going up a tunnel and seeing heavenly bodies bathed in bright light. And a good number see their life flash before them in a life review and even enter a heavenly realm. I know all about near-death experiences because I have written about them, 9 books in all, with a number of the field's top researchers. I have looked at death in many ways and in many cultures. Yet, funny thing, in all the years I have studied and written about death, I have rarely thought that it would ever happen to me. Most of the time I thought that I would always be here, a permanent inhabitant of the living world. What was it Sigmund Freud said? When we attempt to imagine death, we perceive ourselves as spectators. Like most everyone else, I too imagine myself as a spectator. I hid behind my writing, safe from mortality. I had a box seat in the stadium of mankind, an eternal observer in the game of life. Then, reality paid me a visit. It was a beautiful day with spectacular light and clean air. It was, as they say, a good day to die. I was out taking a walk in the desert when, out of nowhere, my heart began to race fast and hard like a runaway engine. Before long, I was down and out. In a lucid moment, I realized that I could easily become the subject of my own work. I imagined what that would be like by remembering stories used in the books I had written. No longer did I believe that the only thing wrong with immortality was that it goes on forever, or that it was a fate worse than death. I wanted real answers to the age-old question, what happens when we die? I decided to go to people who knew firsthand what happens, near-death experiencers. Accidents or illness had brought these people to the brink of death. They had looked down into the abyss and found it to be, well, quite pleasant actually. If not, why were they laughing all the time? I also went to researchers who had analyzed thousands of these near-death experiences and who had come up with some amazing conclusions about God, heaven, and the afterlife. These were guys I had written books with. Funny, isn't it? I always thought I was writing those books for other people, not myself. And then I talked to people all over the country and from all walks of life, just to see what the person on the street thought about death and the hereafter. Their answers were proof that I was not the only one thinking about the big question.
I don't really believe in any kind of afterlife of any kind. I think, when you die, you go back to wherever you were before you were born,
I hope that you go to heaven. I think that you do. I've never thought there was anything wrong with just at least believing that you go to heaven. It's not going to do you any harm, so I hope so.
Yeah, well, I think that we're spiritual beings that have existed before this time and exist beyond this time, and this just happens to be where we're most aware of right now.
I really don't agree with the whole life after death thing, because if it really was life after death, what's the point of even being alive,
I think that there's some sort of afterlife. Your spirit goes somewhere. Honestly, I don't know, really.
In order to get a modern-day impression of this subject, it is best to spend time with the scientists who are studying this phenomenon now. Perhaps the best scientific work is being done by Dr. Jeffrey Long. We co-wrote the book Evidence of the Afterlife, which is filled with his astounding findings about death and the beyond. Yes, I did say beyond. As the founder of the Near-Death Experience Research Foundation, also known as NDERF, Dr. Long has investigated thousands of near-death experience case studies worldwide. His conclusion? There is most definitely an afterlife. New Orleans has been called many things, from an ingrown, self-obsessed little city to a place that can drive a sober-minded person insane. The religious and the profane love this noisy, drunken city on the Mississippi because it confirms their mutual belief that the likes of Sodom is alive and well in the world. And both camps can definitely agree that this American city made it through a near-death experience at the hands of a hurricane named Katrina. And it is here, in this city of death and resurrection, that I brought together our scholars of the afterlife, Raymond Moody and Jeffrey Long, to summarize their feelings on mankind's greatest question: what happens when we die?
Well, Paul, I can say positively that I think we do know a little bit about the entranceway to the afterlife now. We know that initially people go through experience of seeming to leave their body, going into a realm of light, seeing their relatives who passed away, reviewing everything they've ever done. And as this extends, I gather, they are able to continue their intellectual pursuits, and also that love seems to be almost the foundational organizational principle in the afterlife, that we still maintain love and that we still have our personal identities to some degree intact.
What I think is most important is that this is not wishful thinking, this is not speculation, this is solid evidence based on solid principles, research with scientific basis, and it's with that underpinning, with that knowledge that we've gained through our research over the years, that we can have that confidence in saying, yes, there is an afterlife.
I think your soul, like when you die, your soul just basically goes to heaven or hell, and it depends on how you live your life. That determines, like, basically where you go. So hopefully mine will go to heaven.
What do you think happens when you die?
Okay.
Go for it.
I don't think anything happens after you die.
You just die?
You just die.
Soul goes nowhere?
No.
No? What do you think happens when you die?
I think when you die, you're happy. That's what I think.